Welcome to the Messy Success Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Henson. This is episode 67, where I'm going to be sharing unscripted. I'm actually always unscripted behind the scenes, and we're going to be talking about cost versus return on investment. I'm so glad that you guys are here, and I hope that you enjoy this episode. Please don't forget to reach out to me if you love an episode. Leave us a review. Visit us at elizabethhenson.co. Or on Instagram at elizabeth.henson, and just say hi. Let me know that you're listening to the Messy Success Podcast, and maybe you have your own version of Messy Success. All right, let's get started. All right, you guys, here we go. Welcome. Another episode. I'm patting myself on the back because I'm continuing to show up week after week when crazy things happen. And I've been having really interesting conversations lately about how I am like an intuitive speaker. I don't ever really make notes or bullet points or guides. I think when I first started the podcast, I probably did, but now I am fitting in these episodes in the cracks of my day. I mean, some of them when I bring on a guest are a little bit more organized in my calendar, but I really do just try to record every Monday. However, I can fit that into a sliver of time. And, if you've been listening, then you know how that came to be about, where I just had enough of putting it off, trying to wait until I had a quiet house, right? Like I had every excuse, like my house is never quiet. And I just finally said, like, showing up for the podcast, messy, imperfect, children interrupting, is better than not showing up at all. And I just gave myself permission to be even messier and even more imperfect than I have been. And I've just been sharing more behind the scenes, a little bit more in real time, sharing everything with you guys, honestly. And I'm going to continue to do that today. So I'm going to start off with telling you guys all about my whoopsie doops. And it's kind of ironic because I've been showing up and talking about how I'm not afraid of mistakes, and mistakes are good and failure is good, and we learn from all these things. Well, last night I spent an hour interviewing the amazing Jessica Ryan. I mean, this episode has been such a long time coming. And we talked for an hour, and I realized that for whatever reason, there was a technical difficulty. It didn't save. I have no episode. I have no interview. We talked to each other for an hour and something went wrong. I've been doing this for 2.5 years and it was bound to happen. So I'm just really grateful that it happened with a friend, with an amazing human being that's going to give me all the grace. But stay tuned. We're going to be re-recording that. And what's even funnier is that this was the week that I promised my team that I would get an episode ahead, right? I was like, I'm already scheduled to talk with Jessica on Monday night, so I will record another episode on Monday and we'll be 2 episodes ahead. So, the glitch happened last night. I have no episode, and I did not record yesterday. I ended up being on Zoom a little more than I anticipated. And here we are, Tuesday, 3 p.m. And I'm like, I have time and I have things to talk about. So I'm going to show up on the podcast. It's going to happen. We're still here. And, that's just real life. And I really don't beat myself up over these kind of things, but I do hate when, my mistake kind of negatively affects somebody else. But I know Jessica's amazing, and, if anything, it was great practice. And now when we officially record, it will be twice as good because we'll have done a dry run. So here we are. Thank you for being here, for listening. Really good, big things are happening over here. And I am just so pumped to have you here for the ride. And the community management space, I have really just been leaning into becoming the go-to expert in all things community building, community management. And, I've gotten so much coaching around how I can become that, right? Like take the community building that I've been doing over the years and the skills that I have in there, that have always kind of felt fluffy and not good enough in my mind. Like, yeah, I'm human, you guys. I have limited beliefs just like you all do. I never really like knew that I knew stuff. Like I knew that I felt things. I knew that intuitively I could command a room, that I could inspire people, that I'm helping people. But I never really looked in the mirror and was like, I know stuff, right? Like I can really help people. And it's not even about what I know. It's about this ability to ask the right questions and to get people to dig deeper and to see what's possible. And I'm not going to share too much yet, but I have sent 2 proposals this week for amazing opportunities. And my goal was really just to send 3 proposals by the end of May. And it's the end of April, and I've sent 2. Like I'm so ahead of my little mental goal or schedule or whatever we want to call it. And it just feels really good. And I just shared on Instagram today that my best friend Sharon is going to be joining our team. We're starting off with 3 months. She's going to be kind of what I'm calling a brand manager. She's going to be overseeing all the aesthetics of my business. And I trust Sharon more than anybody because she knows my business inside and out. We have a very similar taste when it comes to colors and warmth and design. And she's very efficient, and she's really becoming kind of a go-to expert in like brand voice, and she just gets it. So I'm really excited to have her on and just to up level the way that I'm showing up. And I love the way she keeps saying it to me. Like, if we can just get you to show up on Instagram the same way that you show up on Zoom, like you're going to explode. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Because that's all I want to do. I mean, social media is great, but like, I just want to be on Zoom or with humans all day, every day. And, you know, the podcast is interesting because, you know, I'm talking to you, but in a way it kind of feels like I'm talking to myself. But I enjoy it when I know you guys are listening. But I did just share that on Instagram if you guys want to check out that post, kind of just telling the story of Sharon. And what the heck, I'll share it here. It's not like it's very long. But, you know, when I first started with my camera in 2013, I remember exactly where I was sitting in my little teeny tiny apartment looking at Sharon Hunley's website, Sharon Elizabeth Photography, and just like she was it for me. She was the photographer that I aspired to, you know, kind of be like. And I hired her to mentor me not once, but twice. And eventually, not right away, but eventually we became BFFs, and we kind of have been ever since. Ever since I got her on Voxer, I would say we've been BFFs. And it's, you know, I do a lot of convincing trying to get all my people on Voxer, because if you want to be part of like my inner circle and my life, that's where the magic happens, is on Voxer. And we just haven't looked back. And we co-host an amazing mastermind called Leverage and Lead. And that was like kind of like dipping our toes in to collaborating and doing something together, because you guys know that's not always easy to collaborate with a really good friend, especially on an ongoing project, right? Leverage and Lead is actually about a year old now, which is incredible. And we work together really well. And I think a lot of it is just because we're not afraid of, you know, that truth. We're not afraid to speak our truth and get a little uncomfortable sometimes. And I'm just really, really excited. I've always wanted to bring her on, and I've always just, you know, felt like I couldn't financially make it happen. And we're just in a position where we're going to do a 3-month experiment and, you know, see what happens from there. But I'm just really excited. So I shared that on Instagram. You guys know Sharon and love Sharon. And, you know, being impromptu, no script Liz, I was like, Sharon, you can show him on the podcast like right now. But I didn't even wait for her response. I was like, it's 3:00. I got to get this moving. So really what I actually wanted to talk about today, another conversation that I began on Instagram, is about cost versus ROI. And I just stumbled upon this random quote on Instagram that was, you know, most successful entrepreneurs or successful people, they shop and make their purchasing decisions based on ROI rather than cost. And oh my gosh, all the sales and marketing things that I've been learning over these past years, I was like, yes, that is it. And you know, there's so many different angles that I'm going to take this conversation, but one of them that I found to be really important is, you know, when someone is sending you their sales page, or you're on a discovery call, or you're in a funnel, like you just want to know how much something costs. Like, oh, I want to buy this course or hire this coach, but like I have no idea what it cost. And they just don't tell you, and they don't tell you, and they don't tell you. They wait till the very end, right, to tell you. The very bottom of the sales page, or like you've been following them for like weeks now and they haven't told you how much their signature program cost. There's a reason for that. And from the sales side of things, it's because we really want to communicate our value, right? So that people are making their decision based on opportunity, based on ROI rather than cost. And unfortunately, most buyers make their decision on cost. They just want to know how much something costs so that they can say yes or no and move on. But they're not really slowing down to consider the ROI. So the reason that salesmen and marketers wait to tell you the price is because they really want to paint the most accurate picture possible of the return on investment of what it is they're selling, right? So they're not actually trying to trick us or trying to, be yucky or scummy. Like they just really want us to sit and to picture what it is that they're offering and what it is that it will give us in return, right? Whether it's making our life better, whether it's actual return on investment in form of dollars. That's why they do that. And we as buyers, should always be thinking about what's the ROI. And it would be really easy for me to sit back with this opportunity with Sharon and to be like, oh gosh, it's expensive. I don't have the money, what am I supposed to do? But instead, I'm asking myself, what things can I have Sharon help with that will have a direct ROI so that I can justify the cost, right? To level up my business, to have me showing up in a different way, to, tie up some of these aesthetic and brand loose ends that I have just been leaving dangling out for a long time, right? So what's the return on investment there, right? Being super clear on what that looks like. And that's how we make decisions, as successful people based on ROI rather than cost. Now, when I'm clothes shopping, usually I'm shopping based on cost. I'll look at a shirt and be like, okay, I $30 like this shirt, but I do not $60 like this shirt. And then I'll look at the price tag and then I'll make my decision. That's a little different. But it's like every now and then we find the shirt and we go over that projected amount because it is the shirt, right? So you have to fall in love with the shirt first. If someone just had a closed box and was like, I have the perfect shirt for you, but it cost $150, you'd be like, heck no, right? But if you knew that was the shirt, right, that was going to just create all these miracles in your life, silly example, then you might feel differently about that $150 investment. So I don't know if that's helpful. I really just love that conversation. I love talking to people about when they made decisions based on cost or when they made decisions based on ROI and, how they communicated that as the buyer or as the seller, and just really understanding the difference, right? Of course, we go to the grocery store, we're purchasing based on cost. But then if you need all organic, you're purchasing based on that return on investment of cleaner eating, right? We can look at this in so many different ways, in so many different angles. And I just think it's such an important conversation to have with yourself as a business owner, as a consumer. But as a business owner, if you're not making your investments based on ROI, how are you going to expect your clients to, right? Whether you have a product or a service or whatever it might be, wedding photography, it all relates. But if you as a consumer don't even understand shopping based on return on investment and you're only shopping based on cost, how do you expect to communicate the value to your customers of the return on investment, right? I really do think it's important that we see it from all sides. There's no right or wrong. I'm never going to be here and tell people there's a right way and a wrong way. But are you seeing the opportunity? Are you allowing yourself, your brain, to operate from that opportunity right? Or to only see cost, which is like circumstance, right? Cost is like circumstance, where return on investment is opportunity. And you guys know I love that conversation, opportunity over circumstance. So yeah, that's cost versus investment. I just thought that was worthy of a conversation. I talked about it in my Instagram stories. Didn't really get that much interest in it. So maybe it's just me nerding out over here. But I did think it was worth a conversation. So that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. I did make a joke in the beginning about these being unscripted. And they are 100%. So I would love your feedback if that's going well for you as a listener, or if the Messy Success podcast is a little too messy for you. But I did want to, of course, as always, extend my gratitude. If you are here listening, if you are part of this community, I really appreciate it. I really am just kind of committed to showing up, whatever that looks like right now, and just seeing where the journey takes me. I mean, speaking of ROI, the podcast is a really interesting conversation there. And I shared recently in our local Tuesdays Together, about starting a podcast and what that journey has been like for me. And I think the biggest benefit of having the podcast is that it speeds up the know, like, and trust process. So someone who just happens to stumble on my podcast that's never met me before, a lot of times they will reach out and say that, they really loved that episode. They're so glad they found this podcast, whatever that might be. And that, that really expedited that process of them actually reaching out to me versus just finding me on social media. So, but that's my personality type. I like to have actual conversations more than I like to write. So it makes sense for me. And, the ROI, we'll see. It's a work in progress. It's fun for me. Like I said, it builds trust. It allows me to just share some of this raw, unscripted behind the scenes with you guys. But yeah, to be continued. So I will be circling back with hopefully, more announcements on the community consulting area of things. I am going to be taking some 2022 weddings. I announced that. It's going to look a little different. That's going to be a really exciting announcement that we're going to be rolling out as well. We've been hanging out on Clubhouse. So if you're on Clubhouse, make sure you find me there at Elizabeth Henson. And yeah, I will see you guys next week, hopefully with Jessica's episode. If not, it will not be long. And thank you guys for listening and just for being here and hanging out with me.